Hey guys, so we're less than a week away from the start of the AFLW season, and I don't think it can come soon enough for Port fans like me, especially after our men's season.
It's been beyond them all night, how quickly things can change in football.
And the Western Bulldogs have absolutely crushed Port Adelaide.
Ligo, they need a mark inside 50, siren.
Yeah, the less I think about that, the better. Anyway, welcome to my new channel where I plan to cover this year's AFLW season with a specific focus on all things Port Adelaide, as our girls try for another deep run into November. Even a year later, it's still crazy to think how incredible it was that our girls finished 6th on the ladder in the home and away season and made it all the way to a prelim final before finally meeting reality at the hands of the Kangaroos. To this day, I still watch the fourth quarter and love the moment when Derek found herself with no one between her and the goals before booting the shot which put us in front. Now obviously, I know for all the talent our girls had, we also had a ton of luck on our side, with a really easy fixture that got us into finals and the fact that we just so happened to be on our day when it came to those finals games. Thus, I don't think we should be taking anything for granted as we go into this year. But what is that goal this year? Last year, our goal was to win more games than we lost, and possibly push for the final 8, a goal which we majorly exceeded. Thus, I suspect a lot of people are predicting a grand final appearance, if not a premiership. Now, I don't want to burst your bubble, but I don't think we're going to be doing either of those things this year. If the prelim last year showed us anything, it is that we are still ways off the top teams in this competition. We also have to deal with a much harder fixture this time, with us playing all of the top 5 teams from last year. Thus, a return to another prelim final would be a win in my eyes. If we can repeat the performance of last year, I think we are ready for a premiership run come 2026. Now that's not to say we can't make it to a grand final this year, as I think anything is possible. And I for one will be backing our ladies for a maiden grand final appearance. Anyway, let's look at the actual fixture itself. We have 12 games this year, up from 11 last time, meaning that we're only going to miss matchups with 5 of the other 17 clubs. Unfortunately, 2 of those clubs are Carlton and Sydney, so we're not going to have our dream of the Matilda vs Poppy Schultz game, nor Ella Heads getting a grudge game against her old club. But looking at the games we do have, I've identified 5 as pretty winnable, 4 as a 50-50, and 3 as a long shot. And for a rough average of about 7 wins and 5 losses. Now, last year's 8th placed Essendon had 4 losses and 1 draw in an 11-game comp, so you think 5 losses would still give us a chance to make the top 8 in a 12-game comp, but that will also obviously depend on how other teams go. As for the games I wish to highlight, I think our round 2 matchup against North Melbourne at Arden Street is by far our hardest game, being up against the reigning premiers, who do not look to have lost any form since last year, based on the practice game I got the chance to see down in Werribee. Meanwhile, I have a round 3 matchup against Gold Coast as our most winnable game, as I do not have much faith in the Suns improving much since last year's horrible performances. On the other hand, I have our round 5 and 6 matchups against Melbourne and Geelong as our most interesting matchups, as I feel both teams are around where we are, and thus beating them would show that we have improved over last year. Melbourne is also quite interesting as we have yet to play them in the AFLW competition. As for the games I'll be attending, as it currently stands, as an interstate fan in Canberra, I'll be hoping to travel down to Melbourne to watch our round 7 clash against the Saints, followed by travelling over to Adelaide to watch the Bulldogs play on my birthday, and then to drive over to Sydney for the round 12 clash against the Giants. And then finals I'll have to play off here, but you can definitely be sure if we make a grand final I'll be attending. Now, obviously we also need to talk about our team lineup going into 2025. Of the best 21 who played in our prelim finals lost to North Melbourne, we have lost 3, those being Ange Foley and Oliver Levicki, who both retired, as well as Caitlin Wedland, who suffered an ACL and will not be partaking in this season. As for pickups, we traded in Ella Heads from the Swans, as well as drafted in some new talent. I should also note that injured players Indy Tahau, Janelle Cutlerson and Lauren Young will also be available this season. I'm particularly interested in Young, as she was touted as being a potential number 1 draft pick in 2023 had we not had a priority pick on her, so to see her get in the game would be really exciting. So as it currently stands, I don't think we need to have too many changes to the team lineup. I have Heads to move into defence to replace Foley, while Tahau should easily be able to move up to replace Wedland in the forwards. Levicki is a bit more of a difficult player to replace due to her height. We could bring in drafted Chloe Gaunt, or perhaps just take a hit in the height department with a smaller player. We also have the option, with Custerson coming back, of being one of our key defenders like Borg or Jermak around. And obviously, we also want to make sure we have space in the team for when Young eventually comes back around the midpoint of this season. Anyway, for some final tidbits I want to cover before we go into this season, mainly comes down to the awards nights. It was a real shame that a team which post-finals found itself in the top 4 had a total of 0 All-Australian selections. Meanwhile, Hawthorn had 4, despite the fact that we bet the Hawks. Mainly, I want to see at least 2 of the following players get into the All-Australian team. Gemma Houghton as a key forward, Sinead Goody as a winger, Matilda Schultz as a ruck, and either Abby Dowrick or Woodland as either a follower or interchange, and possibly throw Emily Borg in as a key defender. I would also really like to see Schultz or Dowrick ranked pretty high in the best and fairest competition, hopefully making the top 5 when it's all said and done. And possibly if we're lucky, Houghton running for leading goal kicker. However, the All-Australian selection is the main target I want to see us reach. Finally, to end on a fun one, can we finally beat the Crows this year? After beating them by 2 points in our practice match a few weeks ago, it feels like now is finally the time for the little sisters to beat the big sister. So let's hope our round 11 clash with them this year is finally the moment we get the win. And with that, let's look forward to round 1. I'll be coming out next week with my round 1 prediction video, so stay tuned for that. Until then, let's go Power!